Hi everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us for our 5th Learn From Home Live. My name is Rose and I am the marketing and PR person here at Ocean Sonics. For those of you who joined us for our previous sessions, you'll know that we regularly hold staff learning sessions at our office. And this is where our teammates share their expertise with the rest of our crew. Now, because many of us, and not just Ocean Sonics, are working from home, we wanted to share our learning sessions with you. And we are going to be doing these live sessions regularly, so keep your eyes on our social media channels. We'll share all the details, such as upcoming topics and sessions, on our social feeds. So our previous sessions have had a really great scope. We've been focusing on a number of topics. We started with FFTs and waveform data, and we did a session on ocean observatories, and then spent a few sessions focusing on passive acoustic monitoring. Through all these sessions, some experience with the icListen or hydrophones in general was assumed. So today I'm going to do a session just about hydrophones. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how Ocean Sonics started and the applications for underwater acoustics. Then I'll tell you a bit about the different hydrophones we have, including where Ocean Sonics hydrophones are going in the future. And then I'm going to show you how to connect to your hydrophone and communicate with it using a web interface. And then we're also going to touch on Epoch triggers and how to use them. So today's sessions, like all the previous sessions, will be recorded and shared. So don't worry if you missed something and would like to watch it again, or if you'd like to watch some of our previous sessions. And after the presentation, if you have a question, you can leave it in a comment on our social channels. I am going to be monitoring them, and I will do my best to answer the questions live. If I happen to miss your question, I will follow up with you on social media, or you can send it directly to my email. I will leave my contact details on the screen when we finish. So I'm going to share my screen with you quickly here. Here we go. So as I mentioned, today is all about connecting and communicating with your icListen. Some real-time listening, modular versatile systems, and we're going to talk about our goal to make the best hydrophones in the world. So the way we do that is we focus on better data, simplified deployment and retrieval, and low-stress data collection. So you may recognize this photo here. So we have spoken about hydrophones in general, and Ocean Sonics created these first smart digital hydrophone, and that's what you can see on the bottom. Traditional hydrophones have all been analog sensors, and they need a lot of inputs in order for them to actually operate. So you need something like a preamplifier, a filter, analog digital converter, and data storage. And those are all different components that you need just to make this thing operate. And as you can imagine, it can be pretty high stress if you are missing one of those components or something isn't working properly. It can really disrupt your data collection. So what we know from our users is that everybody's looking for something that is smaller, that's lower power. They're looking for arrays, so they're looking to put multiple hydrophones together. They're looking to do more detection and localization, and they need all of these things to be scalable and modular. So they need something that is as easy to put together as 2 hydrophones, and they need to be as simple as when you put together 10, 15, 20 hydrophones. And then, of course, integration and compatibility. So everybody is looking for something that is easy to work with just about any platform. There are multiple platforms such as AUVs, surface vehicles, ROVs, and even the more traditional platforms like connecting to a computer or off the side of a vessel. And many of these platforms require the use of multiple sensors. So making sure that your sensor is integration ready and compatible with all these different platforms is really important. And then, of course, it needs to be able to operate independently. If you just need a hydrophone, it needs to be a great hydrophone, and it needs to work as a hydrophone on its own just as well as it does with an integrated platform. So there are some new ways to use acoustics. Some ways we've seen our users using these icListen hydrophones is for machine health. So listening for operational excellence underwater. So when where we can't normally have eyes or ears, we can use a hydrophone to sense if something is not operating optimally or if something's about to break before disaster happens. So there's also a lot of applications in offshore energy. So for environmental monitoring, environmental assessments, listening for species at risk or endangered species during installations. And that also ties into regulatory compliance. So if you want to do anything in particular in marine protected areas or where there are typically endangered species or species at risk, you are required to monitor acoustically. It's really important to use high quality tools that are accessible, so that's why we're pretty happy with the icListen. And then of course there's also port and harbor efficiencies. So reducing the amount of time that vessels are idling, as well as improving the time of arrival and departures of vessels within a port and harbor. And then, of course, ocean science. So we're always listening for marine mammals. We're always looking to build our expertise. And then, of course, fisheries. So many people are looking at how we can help fish stocks recover. And also, this icListen is great for detecting density. So some of the products that we offer, we of course have the icListen Smart Hydrophones, but we also have many other products, including the icTalk Smart Projector. This is a projector that allows you to essentially calibrate in situ. What it does is it creates very specific tones so that you can use your Smart Projector to ensure that your hydrophone is detecting exactly what you need it to. Softwares, we have Lucy. And we are actually coming out shortly with Lucy 2, which is a lightened up version of Lucy that is optimized for handling multiple hydrophones. We have Coda, which is an updated click detector, and then of course PamGuard, the plugin that we discussed last week. Some of the accessories that we offer, we have launch box, floats, cables. We just launched our drifting buoy, as well as, of course, a number of other items that make your deployment much easier. So the hydrophone that we're going to focus on today is Platform 3. This is the most commonly used hydrophone. So there's the HF and AF models. And of course, the HF is for the higher frequency noise, and the AF is for the audio frequency. So that's for the much lower frequency sounds. They all have internal data storage and power, internal processing, and the HF goes from 10 hertz to 200 kilohertz, and the AF goes from 1 hertz to 12 kilohertz. So the SC2, this is actually the hydrophone that we're going to be using for our demonstration today. It is 200 meter depth rated. It has a geospectrum sensor tip. Those are actually made just on the road in Dartmouth by Geospectrum. They're very high sensitivity, and they have this cone-shaped end cap, and this helps to improve any kind of acoustic reflection. And these all come with an Ocean Sonics calibration certificate. So we will be using the 200 meter depth rated model today, but they also come in depths of 3,500 meters, 6,000 meters, and 7,000 meters. And then of course we also have the RB9. This is a 900 meter depth rated hydrophone. It uses a reson sensor tip. It has a slightly lower sensitivity, which makes it really great for use in louder environments and for environments with high flow noise, thanks to the thin sensor tip. And this also comes with, along with the Ocean Sonics calibration certificate, it comes with a reson calibration certificate as well. Now, where our hydrophones are heading, we have just recently launched Platform 4. We are currently calling it the icListen Kayak, and that is the first in this new architecture. So the Kayak is going to have a few different variations, including one that is going to be specifically for arrays, towed arrays in particular, and that's the icListen Fleet. This is a completely new architecture. It's scalable, it's modular, and it's optimized for arrays. And with the integration in mind, it's also extra small and low power. So it's 23 millimeters in diameter, 210 millimeters in length, and it has the same broad frequency range of the icListen HF. So it goes from 10 hertz all the way up to 200 kilohertz, but it only draws 2.2 watts of power. As I mentioned, it optimized for arrays. It is 24-bit resolution, and it's going to come in serial USB or Ethernet connections. And of course, with integration in mind, we're always thinking about unmanned vehicles, so AUVs and gliders. And of course, we're looking at sensor integration, in particular attaching a small towed array to these types of vehicles, or even putting multiple sensors in multiple vehicles and creating a mobile array in the form of a swarm. And then of course, using gliders for those beautiful silent recordings. With the icListen fleet, it's going to be neutral buoyancy, and it's designed to be towed behind a vehicle, not unlike this one here. So now we're going to talk a little bit about connecting to your icListen. And when I'm finished my presentation, I will walk you through everything. We're going to use Marco software. This is a software created by Oceansonics, and it's used specifically for locating hydrophones on a network. We're going to use a test cable in one of the configurations, and that's an Ethernet connection. And we're also going to use a remote connection, so using Wi-Fi, and which you can use for Wi-Fi or radio. So we're going to use a Wi-Fi launch box today. So a little bit more about Marco. It's an Oceansonics design software, and we thought it was kind of funny when we named it. If you played the game as a child, Marco Polo, the idea is that this software yells Marco, and the hydrophone replies with Polo, and we can actually connect to it easily. So the idea is that it finds active hydrophones, so any hydrophone that is currently active on your network. So with the test cable, if you look at this lovely little document over here, it is a power and connection in one cable. And it connects directly to your PC using an Ethernet port. And then it also uses a 9-volt battery for power down. The launch box, it does make your hydrophone wireless, so it eliminates the connection between your hydrophone and the computer. Instead, this allows you to be a bit more mobile. It really simplifies your deployment because it allows you to walk away from your hydrophone, so you're not tethered to it anymore. It does provide real-time data and extends the battery life of your icListen hydrophone by about 3 to 5 days, depending on how many toggles you decide to turn on. And it has a GPS time sync as a nice backup for your data. The web interface, I'll show you how to use this as well. And what you can use this for is it's a simple way to connect and configure your hydrophone. It allows you to set epoch triggers, you can choose to record or to stream or both. You can view spectral data in real time. And the great thing is that, oh, whoops. Getting a little bit ahead of myself. You can view spectral data and you can access it by PC, tablet, or smartphone. And it allows you easy remote access. So this is a little idea of what the web interface looks like. We're going to be using the icListen HF1750 today. And that's a basic HF hydrophone. It's an SC2. And this homepage just gives you a snapshot of what your hydrophone currently looks like. So it shows you that, your unit status, how much battery life you have. It allows you to see if there's any issue with the internal temperature or humidity of your hydrophone. And it allows you to quickly see whether or not you have logging or recording turned on, as well as if you have any epoch triggers activated. The About page, it's pretty basic, shows you your firmware hardware releases as well as your sensors or your hydrophone information. Your settings, this is where you can actually get into the configuration of your hydrophone. Today we're going to focus on data collection and epoch triggers, but there's also special features, and also you can alter or change the network settings of your icListen. This is your data collection page, and again, I'm going to get a little bit more in depth with this in a moment. This is where you can alter your data collection settings. So you can change your sampling rate. You can turn on your logging to either record or not, and you can change each of these independently of the other. And this is epoch settings. Again, this is something I'm going to get into a little bit more in depth with a little bit later. It allows you to set up specific event triggers, and you can set up to 5 of them just off of the web interface. And this is a brief snapshot of what your spectral data will look like. And of course, you can change and alter all these settings. And depending on how you change your data collection settings, your spectral data will look a little bit different. And then, of course, it's really simple to retrieve your data off of the web interface. It's as simple as selecting whichever file you'd like to download and then just clicking the download button. So for our hydrophone demo, this will be the configuration that I'm going to use today. We're going to use the icListen SC2, we're going to use a launch box, Marco, and the web interface. So as you can see, this is the launch box here, this lovely little orange box. We're going to connect it via cable to our icListen, and then we're going to stream all the data onto our PC. Okay. So now that we are ready to do the hydrophone demo, I'm going to show you a little bit about what you can expect when you open up your hydrophone kit. So I have here our yellow Pelican box. Many of you will be familiar with this, and I'm going to show you a little bit about what comes inside one of these. So inside every yellow Pelican case, you will find your icListen smart hydrophone. So this, as I mentioned, is 1750. This is the hydrophone that we're going to be using today. It's a basic SC2 model, so it's 200 meter depth rated. And then this is the test cable. As you can see, this is the end that goes into your computer via the Ethernet port. And this can also be used to charge your hydrophone. You can plug it directly into the wall using your power cable. It's as simple as connecting, just like this. Now my hydrophone is 100% charged, so I don't need to connect it to power right now. Instead, I am going to show you how you can connect your hydrophone to the test cable. Now, as the name would suggest, it is for testing. We don't generally recommend the test cable for deployment, especially if you're going to be deploying in an area that's particularly active or turbulent. And every icListen kit is going to come with a tube of subcon lubricant, and this allows you to lubricate your connections so that you don't damage or injure any pins during the connection process. So I've already lubricated both my pins and my connector here, and it's as simple as plugging in, lining up your pins, and plugging in your icListen. Now you want to secure your locking sleeve because this helps to create a nice extra watertight seal. Now on the other end, I use a Mac computer, so I don't actually have an Ethernet port, but this is where you would plug in your hydrophone to access all of your data in real time. When you want to turn your hydrophone off, it's always recommended that you power down your hydrophone after you're done recording, and that's why we include a 9-volt battery in every hydrophone kit. This goes in the exact same way that the power cable or test cable connects. What this does is this essentially sends a charge to your hydrophone, signaling for it to power down, to go into rest mode until you're ready to actually deploy it again. So simple as connecting it, sends the charge to your hydrophone, and now your hydrophone is in hibernation mode. So now I'm going to show you how to connect using a launch box. Now this is actually my preferred way to connect to a hydrophone. It just makes things so easy, and it allows you to actually walk away from your hydrophone. So we're going to be using a subsea cable for this, as well as an Oceansonics launch box. Now I showed you this during the presentation, and now I'm going to show you a little bit about how it works. Of course, we try to make things super easy, so every launch box does come with detailed instructions on how to get it operational, and it takes only a couple of minutes. So first things first, again, you want to make sure that you are lubricating your connectors because you don't want any communication lost in your pins. Just one extra step that makes things a little bit easier and also guarantees that you're not injuring or damaging any of your products. So again, you just line up the pins, connect to your icListen, and then tighten the locking sleeve. This will prevent any kind of salt water from getting onto your connectors and causing any damage. You definitely don't want to leave your connectors exposed to salt water. So then all you do is you connect the other end of your, I'm going to grab my zip tie. You connect the other end of your cable to your launch box. You line up your pins, same as with the icListen, and tighten that locking sleeve. And I'll show you here, it actually just screws right into the side of your launch box. Easy as that. Next steps, what you want to do is you want to supply power to your icListen. It's as simple as flicking a switch. Next, you'll want to turn on your Wi-Fi settings. Your icListen will buzz once to let you know that it's awake and receiving power, and then eventually it will buzz 2 more times quickly, back to back, to let you know that it's ready to record. We're going to switch on our Wi-Fi network. There's a second buzz. Our hydrophone is now live and ready to record. So what I'm going to do, because unfortunately, because I am using Wi-Fi to connect to my hydrophone, if I switch over to the web interface and the LaunchBox internal Wi-Fi right now, I won't be able to continue streaming. So what I did was earlier, I prepared a short video of when I connected to my hydrophone, and I will walk you through all the steps of configuring, changing data settings, and showing you how everything works. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly share my screen. Perfect. All right, so what we'll do is I am going to show you how everything works here. I'm going to talk you through the process as this is happening. So what I'm going to do is we'll start off by hitting play. Perfect. So what you want to do is you want to find the LaunchBox Wi-Fi in your available networks. Each LaunchBox has a unique serial number, so if you're using more than one, double check the number to make sure you're connecting to the correct network. We're using LaunchBox 4601 today, so select the right network and you should connect easily. Next, we're going to use Marco to find any active hydrophones on the network. And when you click refresh, you're going to see icListen HF1750 appear. And the green light means that you are online and ready to collect data. So double click on the hydrophone and you'll be brought to the web interface. So this is where you can change any settings and set up your project. The first thing I do is make sure the date and time are set correctly by heading to the operations page and then just syncing the time to my computer. This makes sure that my hydrophone and computer are working together. Next, I always double check my spectrum. This is just a quick look to make sure that my hydrophone is alive and working as expected. Everything looks to be in order, so I'm going to head back to the home page and begin setting up my project. So the home page gives you an overview of your hydrophone. It lets you know if the hydrophone is ready, how much battery you have in case you want to use it for an autonomous deployment. And it also shows if you're recording. So there's your recording status right there. We have them set to off currently, but if you want, you can change them in our data collection settings. So the About page, this is just basically to show you your hardware and firmware and how up to date they are, but the most important number is the IP address, and that's how you can connect remotely, or multiple users can connect to the same hydrophone. So in settings, here's where you can configure your hydrophone or set up event triggers, and like I mentioned, we're going to focus on data collection and epoch triggers. So in data collection, you can choose to turn on logging in order to record data. You can choose your sampling rate, and choosing a higher sampling rate for larger, more detailed data, or lower. You can change settings for both spectrum and waveform, or you can choose to change one and not the other. But if you do change settings, it's always going to ask you before you leave the page to make sure that you're not altering or perhaps disturbing your data collection. So next we're going to talk about epoch triggers. An epoch trigger is an event or sound detection that can be configured and executed by the icListen hydrophone. And on this page, you can configure the hydrophone to detect specific signals in the real-time spectrum data and perform a number of tasks based on those signals. The icListen can check the data for 5 independent triggers, each with an each with a unique trigger signal and unique actions based on that signal. The hydrophone can record in epoch mode, where it only logs data when it detects events, or alternatively, it can log epoch triggers while it's logging wave and FFT data. There's a lot we can get into with epoch triggers, so we'll do an in-depth session on that separately. So now we're going to check out our spectrum charts. We're using the basic settings, but depending on what you're looking for in your data, you can change your reference to make the spectrum clearer. You can also change your decibel step size and increase the time frame shown in your data. A shorter time window is going to give you coarser, or is going to show you coarser data, and a longer time window will show you much finer data. And you can also rescale your chart to bring you back to your original settings, and you can use this moment to take a snapshot. And the beauty of taking a snapshot is it allows you to capture a specific moment of data without interrupting the stream. As you can see here, I was happily chatting away. That's my voice you can see on the spectrogram there. You can also stop your data and restart it anytime, like even midstream without actually moving away from this page. So now we're going to talk a moment about data retrieval. I showed you very briefly in the presentation. So data retrieval, it's pretty easy here. You can clear all of the files from your hydrophone as quickly as hitting that button. You can also narrow it down to a time frame, or it's as simple as just selecting all your files or an individual file and clicking download. Finally, we have support, and this just allows you to contact us really quickly and easily. Our user guides are there, our phone numbers are there, and if something goes sideways, it's quick and easy for you to either debug or to contact us directly. Okay, I'm going to stop my screen share and hop back into. So I just wanted to thank you for joining me today. And I hope you learned something a little bit new about hydrophones and acoustics. Again, if you have any questions, you can feel free to drop us a line on any of our social channels. I see that maybe I went a little bit too fast. I don't see any questions that came in while we were presenting. But again, if there's something that you want to know or that you missed, please feel free to drop me a line on our social channels, or you can send me an email directly. I will leave my direct contact information in the descriptions for these videos. And of course, if you would like to revisit this presentation, I know we went really fast. This video will be available on our YouTube channel, and I am going to share the links through our social media accounts. So thanks again for joining me today, and hopefully I'll see you next week when Donald Killorn of Eastern Charlotte Waterways is going to join us for an in-depth discussion on their ongoing acoustic monitoring projects in the Bay of Fundy. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.